things you will need are a 16-inch styrofoam ring, or a smaller one if that's what you have. You will also need a wired ribbon, enough to wrap around all of the wreath. That's optional, you don't really have to. I find it adheres the yarn rounds easier onto this than it is the styrofoam, but again, it's up to you. You can also pre-paint this just so when you put the rounds on you don't see any gaps or any white in the background. You will also need various size styrofoam rounds. I used ones from Michaels and from Amazon, and I had just a handful of different sizes from a previous project. You will also need a clear glue. I'm using Aleene's Clear Tacky Glue. You will also need a hot glue gun and lots of glue sticks, and of course yarn in different colors. I'm using loops and threads. I will have the colors posted below. If you don't have any of this tacky glue, I will show you how to adhere the yarn to the styrofoam rounds with the hot glue gun as well. I'll show you both ways. To prepare the wreath, we are going to hot glue the ribbon on one end, and we're going to continuously wrap it around until we get to all the way around to the other side. We're going to remove this label, and so heat up your glue gun, and I would recommend leaving the ribbon on the spool that it comes with. I just find it's a little bit easier to wrap the wreath form. So what we're going to do is we are going to hot glue gun here. I'll just put that kind of in the middle of the camera. So we want to be fairly generous with this hot glue. And we will place our ribbon down, and it will kind of spread out underneath a little bit as well. And then I've done this two ways, where I've glued and not glued the ribbon around the ring, and when I didn't glue it, it kind of shifted a little bit. So I would recommend kind of gluing as you go. Just need another glue stick there. And you really only need to glue one side, and it's just one side. What I mean by that is just one side of the wreath. You don't need to rotate the wreath around and around. So we'll just add a bit of glue here. And you just want to start by wrapping. And you kind of have to gauge how much to wrap and overlap. So just keep going around. And again, it doesn't need to be perfect because most of this will be covered by the yarn rounds. But we do want to make sure that all the white from the styrofoam is covered up. And that we don't have any of the white peeking through. So as we finish wrapping this ribbon around, I just wanted to point out that it's kind of hard to see on the camera. I did put some hot glue over the edge of this part right here because we do want it to adhere and look cohesive and continuous. And I'm probably going to need to do a little bit more down here. And we are going to flip the wreath over to the back. And again, if you missed anything on the back, like this right here, you can just tuck it under. It doesn't need to be perfect because it is going to be covered up, or it'll be behind here, so you won't see it at all. So we're just going to clip the ribbon. And this was a 25-foot spool, and I still have quite a bit left. So if you are going to wrap it in ribbon, I would recommend any 2.5 inch, and yeah, maybe gauge to use 25 feet, just so you have enough. And we just want to secure the end of the ribbon, so we're going to just put that on the ribbon. Oh, I ran out of glue. You do want to be fairly generous because this is the end piece and we don't want it to unravel, so I would be a little more on the generous side with the glue. Wrap it and so now that we have our wreath wrapped, we can go ahead and move on to wrapping the styrofoam rounds. So go ahead and just set your wreath aside. So I do have a couple different sizes and different kinds of styrofoam rounds. This one has a smooth finish, and this one, which I think is a little bit more for decoration purposes, kind of has like a glittery, sparkly finish, but it's a bit rougher. Both will work. They just happen to be what I have on hand. If you don't have tacky glue, I'm going to show you with the first round how to use hot glue, just in case that's what you have. So grab your yarn, make sure that's handy, and you're going to want to place about a 1/2 inch, 1 centimeter long strip of glue on the top of the ball, and then just lay the end of the yarn over it and kind of push it down. Be careful because a lot of glue guns are quite hot, so the glue is quite hot. And then all you do is just wrap the yarn around, and you want to try and get it in that glue just so it really anchors it down. And once you have it wrapped around a couple of times, you're going to just hold onto the bottom like this with your ring finger on your right hand if you're using your right hand. And then you want to go in a different direction. Make sure you wrap it around that way, because in the end we want it to look like an actual ball of yarn. And then just change your direction again. And then we're going to change and go this way around the ball. So just hold it with your thumb and then begin wrapping. Wrap it a couple times, then you can let go. And just keep changing directions. If you're having a hard time getting it to stay put, you can put a little dot of glue to hold it. So again, just keep wrapping and changing directions. The goal of wrapping around the round is to reduce the amount of yarn that we have to use, because if we had to wrap up a yarn ball this wide, that would use a lot of yarn, and yarn is expensive. But the goal with wrapping around the round is to cover as much of the white as we possibly can. So if you're noticing a lot of white in one area, just go over it a couple times and then turn. And here's some more white spots. Once you're satisfied with how the yarn is wrapped around, we will stop, and before you cut the yarn, you want to place a little dollop of hot glue, kind of squish it around there a little bit, and then you want to clip your yarn as close to that glue dot as you can. And then you want to set it aside to cool so that the yarn hardens and keeps that in place. So you may want to have some kind of tray or something that's going to prevent the round from rolling around. So now I'm going to show you the same thing. I'm going to use a different color though. I'm going to show you the same technique, but I'm going to use the clear glue instead. So I don't actually need that anymore. I can unplug that. So you're going to do the same thing with the clear glue. And again, it's really hard to see clear glue against a white styrofoam round, but hopefully you can kind of see. I put, I don't know, about a 1/2 inch dollop of glue, and I really like this Eileen's tacky glue. Although you can see it, and it does look very similar to what this looks like with the hot glue. It just seems to have a bit of a better hold, and it's not spicy on your fingers. So if you are having a hard time getting the yarn to stick to the styrofoam round, there's also another product called, and it's by the same company that makes this, the Aleen's, and it's kind of a sticky tacky spray, and you can pre-spray the styrofoam rounds with that before you start wrapping your yarn. That's another option. I don't have any handy, otherwise I would show you. And you can also use the glue on here if you need to, just to kind of get it started. But once you have a majority of the styrofoam round covered, it shouldn't be too much of an issue to keep going. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the red yarn ball, is try and cover as much of the white of the styrofoam ball as you can. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that Aleen's tacky glue, and we're just going to cover up the end piece here with that little bit of glue. And I like to do it before I cut, just so it doesn't come all unraveling. So we will cut. I would give it at least 30 minutes to dry. Once you have all your rounds wrapped in yarn, you can grab those, your wrapped wreath form, and your hot glue gun, and we will get started. So I had one kind of extra large round, And then the rest of these medium-sized ones are kind of all the same size. So I'm probably going to put this large one at the bottom or the top of the wreath. It can be rotated around, so it doesn't really matter. But how you want to place them is completely up to you. There's no rules. I'm going to try to keep the colors kind of uniform. We're kind of in a pattern for these medium-sized rounds. And for the little rounds, or the smaller ones, I'll just kind of put them together as I go. Wherever you sealed your yarn on your yarn round is where you want to put the hot glue and put that on the wreath. So we will just go ahead and put a generous amount. You do need a generous amount of glue. I know it seems kind of wasteful, but that's just the way it is, because the rounds are quite heavy for what they are. So I'll go ahead and place that on there, and I'm just going to hold it for a little while, just until it sets a little bit. And that seems, yeah, that seems good. You can also always put a little bit of glue like around the bottom if you need a little bit extra. So I'm gonna go ahead and let me just see what other sizes I have here. Yeah, we'll try something like that and see how that looks. So again, just find, this one's a little hard to see, just find where you put the glue to seal up that yarn. And now if you're using a small glue gun, I would recommend not, and try and use a bigger one, because I am finding you go through a lot of the smaller glue sticks. Okay. So we'll just hold that there for a little bit. So now what we want to do is take the rest of our rounds and just place them wherever you would like to place them, and just try and cover up as much of the burlap that you can. So what I would suggest is to place with no glue whereabouts you would want it, and then sometimes you can get it to stick just onto the burlap. Sometimes it may need a little bit of help to glue onto the other rounds as well. Totally up to you. Once you have a majority of the burlap covered, then you just want to take the remaining rounds and just plop them wherever you want, just to kind of fill out the wreath a little bit more. I'm just going to prop the wreath up a little bit just so I can see from a better angle and still film at the same time. So once all your rounds are secure and the hot glue has cooled off, you just want to take one of these picture hanging things. I don't know what they're called. It came in a kit. So what you want to do is take one of these and you want to fasten it to the back. Now because we are working with styrofoam, we can't use nails, which is what you would typically use to secure them onto a picture frame. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you put it on the wreath, if you have a specific round that you want up or down or to the side, like for example, this is the one large round that I have. I want this to be at the bottom when I hang it up. So I'm going to attach the hanger on this side, and we want to make sure that the claws are pointing down. So I'm just going to go ahead and use some hot glue. That's about right, and then if you're worried about this not being secure enough, you can also use crazy glue if that's what you have, or you can tie a ribbon through here, hot glue gun, and I will let you know how it holds up. So I just glued, and I just glued on either side here. It's kind of hard to see. And then I left the claw area free of glue so that it can hang on the hanger nicely.